It's good to see you all here, and it's good to be together. I want to start. There's a lot to talk about tonight, and there's just a ton going on in our communities, a ton going on nationally, and obviously we had this week some very concerning communications from state agencies around the state of public budgets. But I want to start tonight with the good stuff, because sometimes it's easy to forget in all the morass of that how amazing our staff are, what we do for kids, the purpose of why we exist, and so there's a lot of really good stuff going on as well. And I wanted to start tonight with talking about the Cafe Summit, our Cascade Alliance for Equity Summit. And over the years, we started this. The first Cafe Summit we ever did was the day they shut the state down for COVID, right? Like, I remember vividly being pulled out of a session into the hall and on the phone, and the next day we were gonna shut down for 2 weeks. And it was a little bit longer than that. And since that time, we've kept it going. By we, I really mean Luaru, Inger McDowell Hardy, and Jeanette Bucio, and our folks in our Equity and Family Partnership Department. But it has transitioned from a general conference that you would go to a student-led event. And this last one, to me, was just stupendous. Thank you to Directors Wolf and Timchuk for coming. It's truly a student-led event. I mean, from nuts to bolts. The kids organize it, they run it, they MC it. They came from all 4 counties that we support. So kids came over from Warrenton, Hammond, all the way from the Nestucca Valley School District. We had kids in Beaverton School District. A team came from Salem Kaiser, from all over. And just to see how our kids and our youth are able to stand up in front of adults and tell their stories, tell what they need in a public education system, what makes them tick, and their dreams is really inspiring. And I just left I couldn't stay all day. I left the morning just completely pumped up about our youth and what we've got and what we have before us. And so really a fantastic event. I put some stats in here in some of the sessions. I also, Valerie said, nice collage, because I just threw this together right before the meeting because I wanted you to see faces of our kids. And we have a couple of superintendents in those pictures too, who came from outside of our region to be with their students. And it was just a really, really good event. So kudos. We run 2 of these every year. And so we'll have another one in the springtime. And I know we're getting those dates together, et cetera. So looking forward to that. Also, we have, as the board knows, because you've heard from them before, our 9th grade success network. This was an initiative that we put together right after the passage of Measure 98 in the state, which is the high school, now known as High School Success. And we've invested our time, resource, et cetera, in helping districts really focus on the 9th grade year, the transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, staying on track. Because once you fall behind in your freshman year, the road back to graduation on time is steep. And so the whole initiative is about how do we engage kids? How do we engage teams of teachers to use data to identify kids early, make sure that we have systems of support, and that the core program really facilitates kids wanting to be at school. And we have, again, we started that initiative. It was very adult-centric, as most professional learning opportunities really are. And fast forward to today, we have another large student group that has come together from all the high schools that we work with. And we have, I think we're at 31 or 32 high schools in our 4 county regions that have student teams that help our professional learning coaches plan, and then they take action in their schools. And you all heard from them when we were in Seaside. We had a couple of the 9th grade success kids from Seaside School District this summer. It is a really amazing event. It's our largest professional development series, I guess we would say, or networks at the ESD. I put another couple of pictures here of some kids. And this kid, Noe, who is on the left in my board report, is also up there. So I'm not sure this kid actually attending school. He's from the Stucco Valley School District, but I think we got a future leader there. So really good stuff there. A lot has changed since I wrote this report, and I really just wrote this report a couple of days ago. So we have, I have a large thing in here around our outdoor school funding and some advocacy that we have been leading along with Multnomah ESD and a number of advocacy groups. Because as I'll talk about a little bit later, the state is going through another round of potential budget reductions. Outdoor school had sustained in this last legislative session, as the board, if the board recalls, a 20% reduction in the state spending on outdoor school. And that happened on I would say the last 2 days of the session. Nobody was tracking it. We didn't know what was happening. And then we had to pivot very, very quickly to this. Just as a reminder, I just want the board to know, we as the ESD, we don't get any money for outdoor school for the state. Like, our districts contract with us for outdoor school services. So they got less money. So we reduced our program to try to fit the needs of the school districts to maintain this program. And Akari Jensen is here. She's in the front row, by the way. So she's looking right at me, and I got to get it right. But Akari and Adam Whalen worked through the summer to try to, thread this needle. And we just are finishing camps this next week, and the dream goes on in outdoor school. But we got word that there was another round of reductions being slated from the HEC into outdoor school programming. The first indication we got was it was around 13%. We see now with the HEC's budget cut plan that it is around 7%, we think. It gets kind of murky in those documents, what's what. But it's less than we had anticipated at first, but it's really still very troubling. I mean, having a 27% reduction in a program in one biennium, a program that's approved by the voters, Measure 99, which happened right at Measure 98, same time as I just talked about. And it's K-12 funding that's controlled by higher ed. It's a really weird program, the way it's administered at the state. So we have some work to cut out for us on this front, and it is easy to get lost because of the scope and the size of all the reductions that are being discussed right now. But make no doubt about it, this is a direct cut to school districts' general fund budgets. So anything that can't be paid for by this grant, school districts will need to pick up or not provide outdoor school to their kids, and that's not what the voters approved, and it's actually not supported in statute. So this is a direct cut to school districts' general fund budgets. Back to some good news. This one is actually still happening in the way I thought it was, but we have launched now our commercial driver's license program. And that was, if the board recalls, we worked with TriMet. We're working with some of our partners in the room from PCC, and trying to start, and we are starting a first of its kind program in the state of Oregon, where kids can obtain their commercial driver's licenses. By the end of next year, 9 students who recently graduated high school will have received their Class A certificate. So it's going to be small and mighty. We have an additional 14 students who are going to participate in the training program, and these are avenues to high wage jobs for kids right out of high school, potentially. And some of them are really cool. Like one of them was Schaefer Oil, like being out on the water and very large machinery, operating really big machines is pretty attractive to some kids. So pretty cool work going on there with our school performance and workforce development team. A couple more pieces here, and one of them is I'd be remiss if I didn't talk tonight about what's happening in our local communities right now around federal law enforcement and ICE. I was just in with Becky here. We were just in the Hillsborough School District and Forest Grove School District this morning, and it's just palpable. Like, we've got kids in communities that are absolutely terrified. Their enrollment is down. engaging people in the way that we know we need to engage full communities to help kids grow and thrive in the world. Those things are under attack right now. And gosh, like our educators go into education because they care about kids, just straight up. You care about kids. And to have this kind of thing happening, no matter your politics, when you have kids who are in your care and you're trying to help grow and they are so scared and just can't focus on any of that kind of stuff or not showing up, it has a big impact on our staff and has a big impact, obviously, on families. And so it's just a heavy, heavy time for educators. And I know it's a heavier time for families in our region. So we have done a bunch of training here with our administrators and our front office staff, just so the board knows that we have a process and a protocol, and we are keeping our staff up to date on what to do in a kind of an unlikely scenario that this type of enforcement happens at the school door. That's not typically what has, well, it's never happened. And schools so far are still safe spaces for families. I wrote a bunch about the government shutdown, but I'm watching my watch here, and so who knows? Could be tonight, could be tomorrow, could be the next day. But I think everybody expects that to be resolved, for a lack of a better term. And really, for us, and what I wrote about here, it's about kids eating and families eating. Are the things that are most on our staff's minds when it comes to this kind of situation. And I put a link in this report just so the board could see that we're trying to get folks to engage with our food banks around this issue. Like, our staff are amazing, just like school district staff. Like, they want to do like a food fundraiser and like get the food in and redistribute it. And we have to see the system that we're in, right? We have food banks, and I know Dr. Doherty up there works at one almost every single day. And so we're trying to team with our food banks to make sure that we have a way to contribute to this problem, et cetera. And it's just a really weird thing, right? The pace at which things go. Like, I was listening to the radio on my way into work, and it's like, well, maybe the benefits will start going, soon. And it's like, has anybody ever spent a full day not eating, like, that is making these decisions? Like, one day not eating is a really big deal. And so hopefully we can get food flowing and feed our kids in our school districts. Okay, lastly tonight, I do want to talk about the economic forecast and budget outlook. Yesterday, I sent a message to staff after the day before receiving a number of updates throughout the day from state agencies. At the ESD, it's a little complicated because, for school districts, you're really listening to that ODE report on what is potential for a reduction. For us, we have funding through higher ed, we have funding through ODE, which is K-12, and we have funding through the Department of Early Learning and Care. So we had a lot of documents to sift through and try to make sense of, and they're not the most clear documents in terms of, like, doesn't name the program, right? It's like kind of these big buckets. But here I wrote the timeline that we're under here for this budget reduction exercise. I do want to reiterate, like I did in my message to staff, that the board saw that there are no cuts being contemplated for the immediate right now. These are all exercises pointing towards the next year, the second half of the biennium, which is good, but we have to understand that when we're trying to make up a budget deficit in the second year of a biennium, you end up having to sometimes cut much more deeply than if you did at the beginning of the biennium, because you have to make up this big nut. So right now we are talking about next year. All the state agencies were asked to make budget reduction scenarios up to 5%. There are some different percentage tiered plans that are out there. Most of them are in 2.5 and 5% increments. All eyes right now, all eyes are on are really on next week. We have legislative days between November 17th and November 19th. And we will have, I have a mistype here. It's not December 19th, it's November 19th. We'll have an economic forecast. And so those two things coming together will paint the picture that we are going to have to live with for this short legislative session. Internally, we are highly engaged, obviously, with state agency work. I don't think I get through a day without being pulled into a statewide meeting around some of this maturation. I will say the plan that came out from ODE is in the cuts that are being contemplated in these fictitious scenarios, these planning scenarios, they are very heavy on ESDs, very heavy on ESD work. And I think the core philosophy is protect the core program in schools to the greatest degree possible, and we're going to cut around the edges. We are in the edges, right? We are in the gaps. Like why we exist as an ESD and as an organization is to fill in gaps for kids who fall between cracks, right? Either regionally, racially, linguistically, that's what we do. And so when you cut ESDs, you cut the equity bone out of the body in the state. And so we are very heavily named in these reductions. I don't want to go too deep because it's like every program is worth, like, I don't want to leave somebody out, right? Like we have so many programs that are listed or are contemplated in these reductions. But two of the very, very big ones that I want the board to track throughout the next couple of months. Number one is the entire Educator Advancement Council, the EAC, is slated for reduction. So it's the whole quasi governmental organization. They kind of function under ODE, but they have their own governance board, their own statute, et cetera. That entire enterprise is reduced completely in this budget exercise. And why that is important, well, for our ESD, there's all kinds of global reasons why that work is important. But just to name a couple of the programs that we run within the scope of services that the board needs to understand are on the chopping block really are our regional mentoring program. So we run a mentoring program throughout all 4 counties. We have hundreds of teachers, new novice teachers that we support with our staff, or we support mentors in those districts. So we coach their mentors on how to be great mentors. We also do some direct mentorship. That entire body of work would be reduced in this reduction. The Grow Your Own dollars that support really the diversification, quite honestly, of our teaching workforce, our educator workforce, and our pipelines in our communities is completely within that budget. And so those two reductions are extremely concerning to us. We do a lot of work in those areas. There are other programs within the EAC that we run, such as instructional coaching networks, where we train other coaches in districts how to be really good instructional coaches and to help our teachers be successful. It's another example program. Our Equity and Family Partnerships Department has funding in that as well. The other major body of work that we do that's contemplated within these reductions is our Student Success Act technical assistance work. So we're contracted with the state of Oregon to assist school districts with things like community engagement with communities that are furthest from opportunity. It's named specifically students of color, families of students of color, our migrant students, our students who are part of tribes, students experiencing poverty, students with homelessness, right? So like we're talking about, again, being in the cracks where it's hardest to go, right? So engaging families that are oftentimes marginalized from our systems. That's one component of the work. This is also where we do things like our early literacy coaching and support for all 20 of our school districts are engaged with us in literacy development, early literacy development, and building back these programs that are so important for kids' success in education systems. That's within that work. Again, our Equity and Family Partnerships Department is somewhat funded within that slice of the pie. And what's really disconcerting to me is that at the same time there's that reduction proposal, there is new system being built at the state level around the accountability work that's going on in the state to do the coaching that we do already. So it's moving from the ESDs back to a Salem-based initiative. It's kind of like we're back at AYP and No Child Left Behind a little bit. And so what I'm most concerned about is the system that we operate in with that kind of reduction, because it takes it from locally responsive supports back to a state level support system. So those are two that I know I'm really, you can tell, I think I'm a little hot about them. And we have a lot of work to do in the next couple of months to make sure that some of the worst of these scenarios don't come to roost. So that is not a very positive way to end a big, long speech. There are some really other great bright spots. I know as soon as I'm going to stop, we're going to get into recognition and good news in a second here. I see some of our PCC partners, and we do have some really exciting things that we're working on as well. So any questions from the board, I'm happy to take.
Any questions? Dorian.
Hi, I'm going to be sneaky and offer some gratitude instead of a question. Would that be all right with you, Chair?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say, Dan, how refreshing it was to read your superintendent's report. As the person on this board that represents Hillsborough, my community has been very deeply impacted by ICE. I would invite other members of this board to look at recent coverage from OPB on how educators, of course, of all people, they already do the most, are stepping up to get up very early in the morning to do ICE watches to make sure that young people can get to school safely. I can tell you there's been many abductions in my neighborhood. You know, in my neighborhood, there are folks who don't feel comfortable leaving the house to go to the grocery store right now. I know people who are not comfortable walking 1 block to escort their children to the school bus stop in the morning. Things are terrifying. I also am very hesitant to call ICE ICE. I think we're at a point where this isn't immigration enforcement. We are watching federal agents without showing their badges in unmarked vans, wearing jeans, face coverings, abduct people in broad daylight without the proper documentation to do so, including people who are here legally. So I appreciate you drawing attention to this. I can imagine that educators throughout all of the counties that we serve, through all of the communities that we serve, not just Hillsborough, are making some very difficult decisions on how to keep themselves safe. And I continue to be in awe of educators who go above and beyond bookends of their day to make sure that families are safe and also that families are fed. So I just wanted to express gratitude. I know, you know, the couple of paragraphs in your report don't do justice to the amount of training and conversation and support that your staff are providing. And I just wanted to express gratitude because at least in Hillsborough, the last 3.5 weeks have been some of the most brutal of my career.
Likewise, too. You said it very well, Dorian. I also appreciate the resilience of and stick-to-itness. I don't know what the right word is to our core values. We lose the word humanity a lot in this work and or with what's happening, I think, a lot lately. And I just want to bring attention to that the SD, one of the I view, as you mentioned it, Dan, when you talked about they want to protect the cores, but you know, kind of nibble at the margins, and we don't want to push people further in the margins, right? I mean, that's what's being done to us from the outside, right? So anything we can do from the inside to shine a light on our margins again and create somewhat of a sense of care, safety, but utmost humanity. And I appreciate and value the work that you do, Dan, the leadership, but the ESD as a whole. And so kudos to everybody for that. And these have been some challenging times, to Dorian's point, and you know, we just have to stay resolute in our values. And so I appreciate the work of the ESD tremendously.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you, Superintendent. We'll move on to our next order of business, which we always look forward to, recognition and good news. So with the PCC Mobile Welding Outreach and Training Center, Kelsey, welcome back. We're glad to see you, and take it away.
Can I get the PCC group to come up here and Kristen as well?
I'm looking at, there's a large group here with us tonight. So good evening, Chair Timchuk, Vice Chair Wolf, and members of the board. It's good to be back. I'm Kelsey. I'm on the communications team. We have with us a uniquely exciting partnership to recognize tonight for two reasons. Not only have they worked closely with our Cascade Pacific Academies, so our special education department, but we're also working with them to expand the welding outreach and training center, mobile welding outreach and training center, so our districts can take advantage as well. So it's a doubly exciting partnership to recognize. We've got Kristen, maybe I can get you to kick it off and share who you've been working with here at CASPAC. And I think I need you to come speak into the mic so people can hear you online. Sorry.
Not a professional speaker. I'm Kristen Faust. I'm from Cascade Academy, and I'm the transition specialist at the school. I work with students ages 12 to about 21, depending, and I work on post-high school options for college, career, and employment. When I first heard about the mobile welding van, it's not really a van, you can see it's a giant tractor trailer. Van sounds really cute. I was so excited because I thought, oh, Cascade Academy, we don't give them fire, we don't give them sticks, but they can have that together in the welding van. I knew they'd be really excited about a hands-on opportunity where they could learn something that, can develop into a career. Our students a lot of them are hands-on students. They like to get in and get dirty and do things. They aren't always as good in the classroom. They're very active. And so we knew this would be a great fit. So Dr. Bennings, PCC president, yes. Patty Hawkins, dean. Oh no, Megan Jarman coordinated all of the van, everything. I mean, it was amazing. Todd Barnett. Now, Todd Barnett, it was out at Swan Island, and when I first heard about the welding van experience, and I was jumping up and down, I was so excited. And this is Joey Botcher, who is the instructor of the welding van starting this year. I think we were his first students. I can't thank all of you enough for everything you did for our students that participated. We started off, that was the morning group for the first session. Some of the kids didn't actually make it into the van, but that was okay because they heard about the safety and the PPE and I thought, this sounds scary, I'm not going to do this. And I said, well, now you know you don't want to do something that sounds scary, that has fumes, that might, you have to wear all these glasses. So that was okay. And then eventually it kind of withered down to a core group in the morning, a core group in the afternoon. And I can't tell you how excited they were to get out there, even when it was 90 degrees for the first week. And try something new that was, it's kind of scary. You have to put on all this stuff and you have to spark a flame. One student here on the right is a real character. He's like Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. And Joey just had this magic touch. Here's this kid hopping all over the place and kicking cans while he's talking. And Joey just was like calm and, didn't make a big deal out of it. And he got so much out of the program. He's not a student that can sit in a classroom, but he was stellar at welding. And so it just means so much for our kids to have something that they can learn that's new, that's exciting. The other kids were kind of jealous. And they were talking about it and they were walking around with their welds afterwards, It meant so much to our kids to have something outside of school. They don't have shop, we don't have any labs or anything like that. So this was a really unique experience, irreplaceable. It meant so much to all of us. So I'm really grateful. And then about 8 of them got a certificate from PCC that said they'd completed 10 hours or more of welding. And I swear it was like they'd graduated from Harvard. They were walking around with their certificates. They were so excited. And, you know, I did certificates for the kids that didn't get that specific thing, but they were very, very excited. And they kind of, you know, I have a college certificate already. It is a step toward college for some of these kids that maybe wouldn't take that step otherwise. So I just want to say how grateful I am and how much we all at our school, and I know at Levi Anderson as well, appreciate everything that you did to pull all of that together. I know it's a lot, but I can't know all of the details. And Megan, I know you did a lot of last minute coordinating, and how you guys make it happen is a miracle, but it was just a wonderful thing, and I appreciate it so much.
And
I know-
thank you to Kristen for all your support in tracking down the students every day, calling up teachers, looking for kids, and yeah, always being supportive and encouraging for the students.
Of course.
You were, yeah, very supportive, being there every day.
Thank you.
Do you want to sit in front of this mic? Yeah, can you, either mic, these are yours.
Want to make sure I share the words that were so delicately put together about this opportunity. And it is a refresher, just hearing the news. I mean, it just reminds us that we still have a purpose to fulfill, and it's things like these that help us to create access and opportunity. So thank you to the Board of Directors, Superintendent Goldman, Kristen, for your work with the team and everyone. I'm Adrienne Bennings, the president of PCC. And, you know, as the largest post-secondary institution in the state, we serve around 58,000 students across 5 counties, and we have 4 campuses and 10 centers. We're always thinking of how we can meet the demands, but how we can create access for students who otherwise might not have the opportunity, such as this mobile welding outreach and training center. And thanks to the partnership with Union Pacific, we're able to do something like this. And it really, I would not be here, and I know Kristen highlighted the team, but I would not be here. I'm a champion for this work, but I just have to reiterate my gratitude, my immense gratitude for the team that is at the forefront, the behind the scenes, all around and in between of this work. And so without them, it wouldn't be as successful as it's been. And so thank you to the team. Let me see what I want to share. You talked about Levi, but I also want to just thank everyone who's supported this partnership together, because at the end of the day, we're building skills. We're setting up our students for livable wages and careers, and we're sparking an opportunity for curiosity that will lend itself to transformative change and impact in their lives for years to come. And so I'm just so appreciative of that. And I'll end with this last statement because I often envision I'm just one individual. ESD, we're just one organization. We're just individuals here. But as we work together, the power of one is truly reflected in this work. And it's working as one together one, that will continue to impact and make the change and set our students and our generations and communities up for years to come. So thank you again for this wonderful recognition on this beautiful evening. And I appreciate each of y'all for being a partner and supporter in this work. Thank you.
Board members, do you have any questions? Maureen?
That was fantastic. So thank you. And we do need these moments that we get to cheer and celebrate great work and our students. So what I'm curious about is knowing, the students that were coming in, and you all are highly skilled at what you do, but were there surprises, things that you didn't expect in outcomes, or things that you'd like to share in that regard? I'm just really excited about these opportunities for students.
And as you respond, can you make sure you come to the mic?
Oh.
When I first, you're good. When I first took it out to the farm, it's high school. It was, I was reflecting back when I was a high school student, and I wasn't the most respectful high school student. But these kids were very respectful, right? And so my experience with these high school kids going from the trailer has been just amazing how respectful they are. Mr. Barnett, thank you for bringing this out. And then we had some students cultivate their artistic skill set. And we took a lot of photographs, and I wish I'd have brought you guys some, but they did some amazing artistic stuff in there when they had the free time. And so they got to express their individuality with their artistic skill and capability in there. And I thought it was an amazing event. But yeah, I just like to express that.
Any other? Paul?
Thank you. First of all, sorry I'm not there in person, Dr. Bennings, to welcome you to ESD, one of my colleagues. I appreciate you taking the time and effort to attend. I just want to recognize the importance of early career exploration for students and that, you know, not every zip code, so to speak, right, has the ability to have the resources that are necessary to expose kids to what's available to them for their futures, to be able to break some cycle of poverty, addiction, or whatever it might be that they're in, right, which is the business that I think we're all in, is to try to uplift our communities. I'm curious if you know, along with some of the work that you do with the students, do you talk about the wage potential that can come from careers, like what next steps might be? How do they engage in further studies, either within their high school CTE programs at OMIC or at PCC or at other community colleges to kind of upskill and further some of that work? How does that make its way? You know, how do you fit that piece in the overall career and arc of a career for a person that's going into the trades, into this particular exploration?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so our curriculum, while we're out at each high school for 2 weeks' time, is identical to the first 2 weeks, essentially, of full-time welding students at PCC. And so it gives them a glimpse of the exact coursework to expect as a student if they were to continue that trajectory. And in terms of kind of job prospects, in the 2 weeks' time that they spend welding, it could, I think, open up doors to opportunities as a welder's helper. And yeah, just get their foot in the door with that skill set and that kind of introduction to manufacturing. It's a great thing that they can be adding to the resume that can kind of set them apart from the competition, because a lot of employers might not give people a chance if they haven't already been in that type of environment. And so given that they have a good understanding of safety and how to safely use personal protective equipment and can work around welding and produce decent welds, they're good candidates. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And the message and the empowerment that you can give to a young person that might be, you know, 9th grade, 10th grade or whatever, hey, do you realize these past 2 weeks, you've successfully completed 2 weeks of college level work, right? I mean, I think that is, to me, that's the spark, right? That shows people that they do have potential, and, you know, we're willing to provide an opportunity for that potential. So kudos to you all.
Thank you, Paul.
We'd like to touch on that also that leads to pathways like the maritime program down at Swan Island. And when I've had students come in there at 17 years old, complete the pathway and make 6 figures at the end of that. And I have a student down in the Bay Area, down in the, what do they call it, the Gulf of America now. And so he's making,
well, only some people do.
yeah, okay. But they're making, he's making about $150K as a diving welder now, undersea welder. So
That's amazing. That's
it's amazing. So
yeah, good work.
We're arguing about who's going to say what first, but she's the board chair, so she told me to go first. So just a couple of things. First of all, as Dr. B said, she said, Dr. B, I've never seen you not say I'm Dr. B before. So Dr. B said, when organizations like ours can actually join forces, right, we can actually become more than the sum of the parts. I'm very excited. We had Courtney Gaynor, who's not here tonight, but she works on the CTE team with us. She came to one of our last Washington County superintendent meetings, and we're trying to figure out how to get this project and this program interfacing with our schools in a more fluent way through the mechanisms that we have at the ESD for districts to purchase services. So we're just at the beginning of that conversation. There are, of course, things that we need to work out, and it's a resource not rich environment, a resource depleted environment. So people only have so much coin to spread around for things, but people were pumped, right? Like they want our administrators in our school districts want kids to have access to things that kind of can blow their minds, like Paul's talking about, like open their minds to like different possibilities. So who knows, you know, but we're working on it. And so I just want the board to know, like we're interfacing and we're trying to figure these kind of bureaucratic things out so that we can get kids, right? Like what they need to see the world in a wider way. So thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
And this has been a day for me to reminisce. I got to earlier today. I spent 4 years in Future Farmers of America, and in Future Farmers of America, you take a class in welding, and it doesn't matter, you know, what you do welding, and you get to see how difficult it is to do welding. But like you said, there are some people that find their path. I was not one of them, but there are some people that find their path. But now when I look at a trailer hitch or a piece of farm equipment, I know what it takes to go in there. And there were students that went from there to Rogue Community College that were able to make a good living wage job because of something that they experienced in high school. And we didn't call it CTE. That's how ancient I am. It was just good old vocational learning. So it brought me back because I remember how difficult that was to get that seam just right. So we really appreciate you being here tonight. We really appreciate your dedication to the students and making this available and having this collaboration with the ESD. So we'd like to get your picture real quick before you leave.
Oh, yeah.
Full board, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
It's a party.
Do it right here. We have a small thing for being here tonight. Color preference. Purple. Have another. I'll see if I can. Go side by side. Oh. You have to figure it out. Okay, that's not sort of. Okay. Ready, 1, 2, 3, and I'll do one more. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, same.
All right, our next order of business are public comments. Board Secretary, are there any public comments?
There are not.
Thank you very much. All right, next order is the consent agenda. And just a reminder, board members, you were sent to revise personnel for your packet. So that is part of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? So moved unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to reports and discussion. First order of business is the Northwest Outdoor Science School. And is it Akari, right?
Mhm.
Jensen, please. Thanks. Jensen. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Akari Jensen. I am the director of the Northwest Outdoor Science School. I'm going to be repeating a couple of things that Superintendent Goldman, it's okay, shared with you about our budget landscape, but we do have a lot to celebrate as well. We did just finish our fall season. So we had 6 weeks of programming across 5 different outdoor school sites in Northwest Oregon, and we served 5th and 6th grade students from all around the region and even outside of the region. That being said, the budget landscape, if you'll go to the next slide, that we are talking about here, just to give you a visual of the timeline, we at Northwest Outdoor Science School, we make plans for the following year well in advance. So by May of last school year, we had already determined from schools how many students they were going to be sending to outdoor school. And based on those projections, we signed contracts with our sites. We forecasted for staffing. We did all of the things that we normally do, and that was approved based on a certain slot per student price. And then it wasn't until June, late June, that we learned that there was going to be this reduction of 20% in our outdoor school funding. And it really caught us by surprise. And then even still, after learning that information in June, it wasn't until August, right before our session was starting in September, that we learned what the impact was actually going to be on our school districts and our school partners. We did everything that we could to reduce that impact, but as Superintendent Goldman said, that is a direct hit to our schools. Ultimately, we're the outdoor school provider and our school partners are paying us for this service. We did everything that we could, including cutting hours for our staff, reducing our consumable materials budget, and utilizing one-time reserves in order to get that cost down. That won't be possible for us next year in the second half of the biennium. So this is very present for us, even though this year we're kind of able to mitigate it. And that being said, if you go to the next slide, we did hear on October 13th that there was this additional, it's not 12.78% anymore, it's 7% reduction that they have explored. They've asked a hypothetical exercise to happen of a further reduction to outdoor school funding this biennium. Superintendent Goldman led a charge to have an advocacy letter written to our representatives and to the HEC, not only asking to preserve the funding that we do have, but also to restore the funding that we've lost, just because this is such an important program to students. It's voter backed. It's something that Oregonians want their students to get to experience. And that is something that we're really fighting for. So in this legislative short session, that's what we'll be working for. But now to switch over to some highlights of our program. If you look at last year's numbers, we served 8,623 5th and 6th grade students. We're projected to serve 9,500 students this year, so even some growth. In addition to those 5th and 6th graders, some of them are pictured here. Those are some St. Helens students that are out on critter catch, that's at Camp Cedar Ridge and Rock Creek. And we also had almost 1,600 high school volunteers that came to be student leaders for the week as well. And that experience, they have dual credit opportunity through that, as well as volunteer hours. It's a great resume builder, so we're really excited that many students participated. And we also did some quantitative analysis of our program, and 98% of teachers that took our survey, as well as 91% of students, said that they enjoyed their week, probably because of the activities like you see on the screen that they got to partake in. We also do some qualitative analysis of the impact of our program, because something that we know and really believe is that outdoor school is more than just a science school. So we asked them, as a result of this experience, do you intend to do anything differently in your life? And this is just a really small sampling of the responses that we get. But they said, yeah, I'll go outside and I'll enjoy nature more. Or I felt that being an outdoor school made me a better person because I got to make new friends and connections with people I didn't know a week before, which is awesome. or even just pay attention to the smaller details of life. So there are definitely next generation science standards, skills that these students are learning, but it's more than that. It's social emotional learning. It's learning how to be a community member and connect to the world around you. This formatting got a little funky, but that's okay. We really believe that outdoor school is for all. For any student can go to outdoor school, and sometimes it takes some additional supports, but we will make that happen. And this was a really wonderful story that came out of Orenco in Hillsborough School District. They brought their entire 6th grade life skills class to outdoor school, and some of them were even able to spend the night. A lot of those times, those students prefer to come during the day, or their families prefer for them to come during the day. But we had some students that wanted to do the whole thing and spend the night. And so, typically we have bunk beds out there, but it's right at the top. You can see we kind of outfitted one of the rooms to be adapted so that it wasn't a bunk bed and that student could stay there. Certainly, we're very thankful to the Orenco Life Skills aides that attended with their students that allowed them to fully participate. You can see them doing critter catch there. We also have an all-terrain wheelchair called the Adventure at each of our 5 sites, and they needed all of them in order for the Orenco students to attend that week. So we pulled them from all corners of our program to get those out there so that students could access the program. And then last but not least, I don't have time to show this to you, but there's a 16-minute short film that's really amazing. It's called Where We Belong, an Outdoor School Story. I'm pretty sure that Tracy Goldner put it all over the place. It's on our website. You can find it everywhere. It's also on YouTube. But it was produced by OSU Extension and Laugh, Cry, Love Entertainment. They actually also did the outdoor school movie that is coming out. It's in the festival circuit right now, but it's a really wonderful film that features Camp Merriweather, which is on the screen there in Cloverdale on the coast. That's one of our 5 outdoor school sites, and it also features students from Conestoga Middle School when they attended. And it's just a story of belonging, and it's really wonderful, so highly recommend you take a look. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Maureen?
So it's more of a comment than a question. And I think Superintendent Goldman, you can correct me on my sequence if I'm wrong, but I just, what I'm trying to get to is I just want to be a champion and do whatever I can for this. If I remember correctly, it was the Great Recession that pulled outdoor school, which then probably moved forward Measure 99 to say we highly value outdoor school. So we're going to, have voter approved dollars for it. And the reason it's just so personal is both my children, who are now, thriving young adults, but they were so impacted in different ways of having to go away and do that, and the strength of that. My son, who didn't at the time always step up for leadership, loved it, came back, was a student leader. And it's so important, and it makes me really angry that we're here. I'm assuming it's heck because of OSU Extension, but I'm just angry because I feel like here we are, right?
Yeah.
We do something, we cut it. Hey, that's really important. Let's put it back. And now we're back to cutting again. So all I'm offering is whatever I can do to be a champion and an advocate. It's really important. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Man, you're bringing me back. So and I'm looking at some of our administrators who I know were middle school administrators during that time, and what we needed to do to get outdoor school happening on the annual was threadbare, bake sales, begging teachers to do the work. It was really hard. And then this happened, and yes, and here we are again. So, we will charge you up. Don't worry. Kari's going to get your number and put you on a mission.
So my question to advocate.
Yeah.
You said you presented 8,623 students in 5th and 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what percentage that is of the 5th and 6th graders we have in the ESD?
So that's a great question that I don't know the answer to because not all of our students come from this region. We have 27 school districts, and we have some school districts within Northwest Regional that choose not to participate in our program. Sometimes they do their own outdoor school program or they don't access outdoor school. And then we have a number, we take almost all of Clackamas County. So I don't know how to answer the question about percentages. I could do some digging, but
I would just say from the point of advocacy, if we're going out as ESD directors of the Northwest Regional ESD, that we make sure that we talk about and there's absolutely nothing wrong with having people from outside, but just so we're speaking to that, so that we speak with authority and not trying to, apple to apple. And then do we happen to do any sort of breakdown on what school districts, if there are title schools or if, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Because I think those are all arguments that as we're looking to try to get funding, we can connect dots better.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And that data we do have, which schools have title funding and the demographic breakdown of each of those schools as well. So we have access to that.
Kari, can you just quickly for the board, what the next largest outdoor school program after ours is Multnomah?
Yes.
And how many, what's the?
They serve around 6,000 students and they're all within, except for Lake Oswego School District, all within Multnomah. So we have just a much larger portion of the state, both in terms of numbers and in terms of geography.
And we did over 9 this year.
Sorry, what?
Over 9 for us this year. 9,000.
Yes. Yeah.
Projecting.
any other questions from the board? Well, thank you so much.
Can I just ask a quick question? Thank you. Do we have any longitudinal data to show like the success of kids that have participated in outdoor school and their sort of subsequent journeys through, high school in terms of success or anything like that?
Yeah, that data exists, not necessarily specific to Northwest Outdoor Science School, but OSU has been conducting that kind of study across multiple biennium for both 5th and 6th grade students and then separately high school student leaders. They do some attitude surveys. They have a lot of both qualitative and quantitative data. I'm certainly happy to share that with you all, but yes, that exists.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I suspect that data is probably pretty powerful.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, any other? Right, thank you so much for your
Thank
report,
you.
appreciate it. All right. Next up, we have employment pathways and hiring practices from Catherine.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, it's great to follow Akari. I think I just want to start out with just gratitude to the board and appreciative of your advocacy and doing all that you do so that we can do what we do in human resources. And I had the great fortune of having kind of a long on-ramp to this position in the Human Resources Department in the transition of Debbie retiring and me coming in. And we have a very stable employee group in our Human Resources Department, but we were able to do some strategic work over the summer. And so I just wanted to draw your attention as I start this presentation to our kind of guiding statement here that we work to attract, hire, and retain diverse talent that reflects our shared values and student needs. And so we really feel like we are a support to the programs, the great programs like what Akari talked about, to make sure that we've got the right people in place to do the right thing for kids. And so that's why I'm passionate about the work, and that is why our team is passionate about the work. And if you go to the next slide, Stuart, this is our mission statement. And when we worked with our team and talked about, what are our strengths? What do we do well? What is it that we want to portray from our Human Resources Department? The team really felt like they wanted to include that we lead with heart, that it's really that we care about our employees, we care about the work that we're doing, and we want this to be a great place at the ESD for our kids. And so I just offer you that to show you a little bit about our team and what we're working towards as we talk through kind of the hiring and retention pathways. Thanks. This is table that Debbie showed you all over the last couple years. So I thought it was important to kind of keep that going because it's nice to see our hiring trends over time. And so you can see that our footprint is shrinking over time. We had a big layoff in the 23-24 school year. You can see the data reflected in that. And then our hiring numbers from last year, and we're trending downward again in 25-26. And I think you'll hear in the next few slides, our Human Resources Department, we have a lot of data. And we look at this data and we really try to work to interpret what it means. And so it's one thing to just see those raw numbers on a table, but it's another thing to just dig down and see what is that data actually telling us and how can we impact those that we hire to make sure we retain them over time. Because we know that turnover is expensive. We also know that when you're making a hiring decision, you're potentially making $1 million call because if you really can retain those people over time, that is a big investment in people and what they do with our kids. Next slide. So again, with the hiring data, we can pull from our data system that we have an 86.6% retention rate from the 24-25 school year. And that's nice to know. The industry standard and goal is about 90%. So we're close. But of course, in our department, we want to exceed that 90%. But when we started looking at that data and, feeling fairly good about our retention rate, we really weren't able to answer the questions about what do we have for voluntary turnover. So people that are like, I've finished my career, I'm retiring, or someone that says, my spouse is moving out of the area, therefore I'm needing to leave. It's nothing to do with the agency versus involuntary turnover, so terminations and layoffs. So we're really working on making sure that we can dig into those numbers and find out what they really mean. So our current system, although it is robust, I don't think it gives us the full picture. What we've done in looking at that data is examining our hiring practices. And so we last year introduced kind of a new sequence of hiring, and you can see it's in phases across the top of the picture on the slide, from developing job posting all the way to, and I don't know why that's covered up, but the thing underneath the arrow is our stay interviews. And so just looking at the life cycle of an employee of how do we start from just initiating, hiring someone to figuring out what are the reasons they stay versus go. And so part of digging into that data is making sure that we have a robust feedback loop with our employees. So we've implemented a 60-day new hire survey, and we want to get information from our fresh employees about what their experience has been like, because we know those first 60 days and really throughout their probationary period is critical as far as whether or not we're going to be able to retain them long term. So we're collecting data on that. And then on the previous slide, I pointed to the stay interviews. We are working this year in determining what is our kind of satisfaction with employees based on their years of experience with our agency. So we're randomly sampling employees that have 2 to 5 years of experience in the agency, 6 to 10 years of experience, and then 10 plus years of service in the ESD to figure out if we've got some trends there that can help us inform what our recruitment efforts are, if there are places in our system that we need to shore up or augment in order to have a positive work experience for our staff. And then this is a kind of information item. So over the years, each year, the communications department has worked with HR to do an annual staff survey. And we've looked at that data over time. We've done that survey in several different ways. We've done a Google form, we've used Thought Exchange. And this year we did our first survey window. We've contracted with a company called Upbeat, and they do nationally normed very focused on the education system surveying. So we're really excited. We're going to get the results next week from the Upbeat survey. And we'll be able to not only compare within our agency how those results look, but we'll also be able to compare to national data. So it really will help us combat a narrative of, whatever the data shows, or reinforce the narrative of whatever the data shows as far as how our culture and climate is for our employees here at the ESD. We also, with our Upbeat survey contract, we have 11 administrator coaching slots. And it's one thing to be data rich, but if you don't do anything with the data, then why collect it? And there are administrators that have worked in the field or actively working in the field that will partner with our administrators to really comb through the survey data and then put together a strategic action plan for how they're going to set up those action steps to really impact the data in the spring survey in April. So we had good participation. 67% of staff completed a survey during this first survey window. We're hoping to grow that a little bit in the April survey. So we're excited about that. And then the final component with Upbeat is they also do an exit survey. So again, nationally normed questions, so we can compare why our people are leaving. We can also get more discrete data about that voluntary and involuntary turnover rate through the information from this survey. So we're really, really excited about that and wanted to make sure you knew about that. And then finally, this, was a week old and things have changed based on Superintendent Goldman's report and the information that we're getting from the state. But we already had suffered some reductions because of funding changes in the Regional Educator Network and Educator Advancement Council. So we had 3 FTE within our department that was really focused on making sure we're establishing and growing pipelines to not only diversify our education pathways and also support our new hired employees and those that are classified staff members that want to become licensed staff members. So we've pivoted a bit, and we now are working with some limited REN funding and some funds from Meyer Memorial. And so we have 1 licensed staff member and part of an FTE of an administrator that's working on that. And we're continuing to explore other ways and other funding to kind of foment some new partnerships with community-based organizations as far as for recruitment activities, as well as partnerships with universities to make sure that we have clear pathways for people that are interested in pursuing a field in education so they know where to start and how to finish. And then finally, we have a lot of celebrations. This is just one slide from our 60-day survey, and it's kind of small, so I'll read it aloud. It says, do you feel you have the resources and information needed to succeed in your role? And if you kind of look at that from like a net promoter score lens, we're really happy that so far everyone that's completed the survey, albeit a small sample size so far, is really satisfied with their beginning experiences with the agency. So we will continue to strengthen that feedback loop to make sure that people are having a good employee experience, really expanding what we're doing for our data collection and analysis on how we can retain all of our workforce, and especially focusing on our hiring for equity. And then even though we're facing funding challenges, let's not let that be a barrier to thinking creatively and continuing to establish new partnerships. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Yes, please.
Yes.
And Catherine, thank you. I know these culture surveys are always so interesting when you get the data back. And so I'm going to ask my question to both Dan and you, because in the last couple of years, I'm assuming that surveys were being done. So in the last couple of years, what's the one action item that you took and did something with so that people who you're surveying know that somebody's doing something with this information.
I think one of the things that we're very proud of in our HR department is the time it's taken from when an offer is made to when we're actually onboarding an employee. That took an inordinate amount of time. I think we lost a lot of good candidates because of that. So with that feedback, we've really tightened up that timeline. We've increased communication with potential candidates, and our time from job offer to onboarding, you know, we've actually this year turned somebody around in 24 hours. So yeah, so we're proud of that.
And I would say, just from a broader organizational perspective, one of the things that we've been sure to address in our surveys has been a staff reflection on how we are doing as an organization and how our staff are doing as individuals in moving across our anti-racist multicultural continuum. And so last meeting, Luaru presented to you, there's 6 domains. And we use that data quite significantly in planning our professional development series, our all staff in service every year. We certainly use it for that. And we do, shouldn't say we, Kelsey and her team put together a really rich summary, and we report that back out to our staff. So it's not like it just comes to us and like, you know, it just goes away. And so at the last in service, we had a 1-pager with all the results and what we're doing about those things. Was part of the welcome back packet, you know, so to speak, when people came in.
And even though we are contracting with the company or Upbeat, we're able to customize our survey so that we're still collecting that same data about the effectiveness of our anti-racist multicultural continuum work.
Any other questions?
Comment/question. So great report. Thank you, Catherine. I'm a huge fan of state interviews, so I'm excited to see that included as well. A question about the survey completion rate. I think 67% is actually really good. So kudos. It can be hard to get staff to complete those. What type of incentives or what type of expectation is there, I guess, that's gotten you to that 67%, and what thoughts do you have for increasing it for April?
You know, we actually, with the first, we kind of had a fairly soft push on completing the survey. We promoted it with our union leaders to encourage their staff, to have them encourage their members to complete the survey, sent out information to our administrators. But as far as, you know, incentives to complete it, we didn't actually do that this go around. So I was pretty happy with the survey participation rate. Upbeat, the company, they say that their initial surveys are around 70%. So we were a little bit below average. So we're going to work to get that increased for our spring survey.
Still a good number.
Yeah,
Great job.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, great job. Thank you for
Thanks.
sharing that with us. We look forward to getting updates, and we'll just have you stay where you are and do the first read policies. BBFA GCBDE/GDBDE. And of course, we all know those by heart, so you don't have to say what they are because we all know them by heart. But if you need to, you can go ahead and.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Madam Chair, members of the board, we have 2 policies for first read for tonight, the ethics and conflict of interest policy and military leaves of absence. And I would just want to be transparent with that. We have not brought these policies through our BPAC committee. We're just bringing forward these 2 policies because the changes are really statutory requirements. The ethics and conflict of interest, the main changes there are to update to gender neutral language, which you'll be seeing throughout all of our policy revisions. That'll be a standard for us. But just the inclusion in that policy of members of household being considered as a potential concern for ethics and conflict of interest. So that's the main change for that one. And then for the military leaves of absence, the change is the increase of number of military leave days from 15 to 21 days, and then the addition of adding reservists to that list of eligibility. So those are the primary changes there. Again, They're lawful changes recommended to us by OSBA and felt those were important and timely to bring forward to you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the first reading of the policy updates? All right, we're good. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thanks.
Oh, wait. Oh, it was a thumbs up? Okay. All right. Superintendent, administrative reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you've heard quite enough from me this evening, and so I'm happy to take any questions anybody would have around these reports.
Any questions from the board or concerns from the administrative reports?
Just always an appreciation for the work. So thank you all.
And they are, we see them, we read them, and we appreciate them, so. All right, action items. Approve the October 2023 financial, 2025. Let's go back to 2023. Financial report, Jordan.
Thank you, Chair Timchuk, members of the board. It's good to see you all tonight. The financial report for the period ended October 31 is consistent with the reports prior to it. We do have what I would consider at this point reliable expenditure projections in these reports. Revenue is still challenging. Our local revenue will come in throughout, the majority of our local revenue will come in November and December, and that's when we'll have a better handle on that. And we are still waiting on several grant agreements, though they are starting to come in. As the board knows, we got our EIE, CSE, and Regional Inclusive Services grant agreements early this year. We have seen quite a bit of delay on some other agreements, mostly because of this budget reduction exercise that the state is having people do. It made ODE a little bit more cautious about sending out agreements. But Superintendent Goldman was able to effectively convey why that delay was not helpful or necessary. And so we're starting to get some of those agreements in place. And once we have all those, the revenue side of these projections will become more reliable as well. There isn't anything in the report that I felt needed to be specifically called out other than some things that were written, but most of the commentary in the report this month is just reciting what's in the financial report. So happy to take any questions the board has, though.
It's just a comment. And Jordan, I just, again, want to thank you for the detailed report. I read it, but then I went and looked at the numbers. I'm like, why are those so high? I'm sure Jordan addressed it. I just need to go back and read it again. And you did. And it was on the annual forecast data. So I just wanted to say thank you for the thoroughness and writing a really helpful narrative to track with the numbers. So
thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? You get a heart emoji this time instead of
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Director Russell.
Couple of comments. We had a very big in our consent agenda. Lots of grants, so those are starting to come through. I know there's nothing that's 100%.
Yeah.
But are you feeling pretty positive that these are all going to be able to transpire and the state's not going to come back? And
I feel a lot more confident about the current year than I do about the biennium as a whole. But we have, when you look at the timeline of the short session, I think we were already anticipating that any changes that might come would be targeted to the second year of the biennium, just as a matter of practicality. And we've received that indication from ODE now as well, that the exercise that they did, and again, I know it's been said so many times tonight, I just want to continue reiterating that this was a budget exercise. We have not received any indication from the state that any of these programs are what is specifically being cut. But if those cuts were to occur, the proposal that ODE is making to the legislature is that the totality of those cuts would occur in the second year of the biennium and not the first year. So I feel good about this year. I do think that as an agency, we need to be prepared for what's coming down the road and not, even though we're okay this year, we need to be cautious and judicious about the way that we utilize resources this year to ensure that we're not taking a huge hit just in the second year alone.
And then my second question is more just Paul, you've got a question. There you go.
I do. Thank you. And then actually, I think you kind of hit it at the end there, Jordan. Thank you for that regarding, a hit that comes in the second year and having to take it all in the second year. Pending what we hear on November 19, and then certainly as we move in through February, when we start to see the short session conversations take place about budget reallocation, would there be any movement, you think, on the ESD's part to enact any changes in this year's budget to the extent that it could lessen the impact on next year's, or will we already be too far down the road that any of those cost savings would be minimal and we'll just try to absorb it all in the second year?
I think by the time the short session is over, we will be substantially too far down the road to make course corrections in the current year. That being said, whatever we can do this year, I don't expect to have to wait until the end of the short session to have some indication of where things are heading. The earlier that we can start to course correct, the more that we can rely on things like attrition for how we deal with reductions rather than having to do layoffs and RIFs. And so it's just, I don't know how else to say it other than it's going to be a challenging spring. And we're going to need to be adaptable. As far as official action of the board, I don't think we would bring a supplemental budget to the board to ask you to recognize a reduced appropriation level. It's a thing that local budget law allows for, but it's not necessary. The appropriation set a limit for us, but we are allowed to spend under those appropriations as we see appropriate. So we will continue to inform the board about where we see some of these programs going, but I don't think we would ask the board for official action in the spring.
Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can I just say one more tiny bit on top of that, Director Gerald? So one thing, and of course, I always have my school district, still trying to take the shower of the school district, and I'm here at the SD. At a school district, we are a service agency, right? So we have to recognize how money works for us. And it's different than like a school district or maybe a community college in that we don't have a big general fund. So the idea that we're going to save a whole bunch of money and pack it away and then get our programs further down the road, our general fund is very, very small. And so to slow down the spending on things that districts have purchased from us, right, isn't really a way that we can navigate this challenge. And then the vast majority of our funds that we operate with are state contract funds. So again, slowing down the spend on state contracts where we have deliverables is also very challenging. Where we can adjust our limits is around that general fund in our operations. And again, it's a very small part of our budget, like a very, very small part of our budget. And that's where we will try to hold costs down to the greatest extent possible. But on the vast majority of our organizational footprint and what we do, like we have services we've been paid to deliver. And so we got to deliver them.
Yeah, that helps a lot, Dan. I appreciate that kind of clarity around that. It is a different beast than operating around a significant general fund budget. So I appreciate that distinction.
I just had a question, something that changed between our last meeting and now this meeting. And just for my explanation, as superintendent points out, ESDs operate different than school districts, but something that was very, very vocal that happened behind the scenes was the state coming out with a different chart of accounts and the BPAM. And I'm just wondering if that would have any repercussions for our local ESD.
Yes. And I won't go into too much detail because Dan will run me out of town. But yes, and not just for our ESD, I'm very concerned about what it means for our districts. The more I process the information, it would be very challenging for the ESD. But primarily the consequence to the ESD, I think, comes down to the data quality that we would be able to provide the state with the structure that they're asking for would be incredibly low. And the only way to navigate around having really low data quality would be to increase our fiscal staff by an order of magnitude, which is not going to improve our service to districts or outcomes for students. So I'm guessing we wouldn't do that. We would just produce low quality data. It wouldn't be inaccurate, but it would be low quality. And but for districts, I think it's going to be, as it's proposed in its current iteration, impossible to implement. And I'm not saying that hyperbolically or to exaggerate the issue. I literally believe it's impossible. Would be happy to go into detail on that at another time, different venue, whatever. Happy to do it here as well if that's what the chair would like me to do. But I just want to convey the point that for all 20 of our districts, I think that often with things like this, there is a notion, well, the big districts have a lot of resources, so they can do it. The big districts are way too big. The number of combinations and permutations that would result from this chart of accounts, Beaverton and Hillsborough can't do it. A small district, you have your CFO, your business manager is also your food service manager and your transportation director. They are one-person shops. They run, in most cases, we are running their AP and their payroll for them, but that requires a lot of work on their end to send stuff to us and different things like that. They can't do it either. So it's a non-starter. I have lots of opinions. I will buy anybody coffee who is willing to listen to me talk about those opinions and advocate on our behalf, especially if that person happens to be on the State Board of Education.
I mean, this is going to be news, and the superintendent keeps correcting me. I cannot get all these acronyms. PBAM.
Bam.
I plant this seed because it will be all of us again. Like so many times, if we don't understand it, we cannot be out there advocating. And as we talked about all of these budgetary things, this is an unfunded mandate that none of us can absorb. So we have to educate all of our different stakeholders on this, because all we did at the State Board of Education was kick the can down the road. And it's going to come up again in March rather than it coming up next month. So we need to all do our part to understand this and be able to speak to it. And because it, like you said, we can go into the details, but I just needed to know where the ESD is on that with the school districts. So thank you.
I do just want to say one other thing, since we're talking to stakeholders broadly. I think what Oregonians need to understand about this is that my conservative estimate for what it would cost to implement this change, and PBAM stands for Program Budgeting and Accounting Manual. It's what governs how we code our transactions. I think conservatively, we're talking about $80 million a year being spent on fiscal staff at districts across the state just to change the way that we code transactions. And it will not lead to changes for students in any way. So we're already a resource constrained system, taking another $80 million out of it to, I love the finance profession. If that's how our state wants to spend its money, we can go that way, but it is an unfunded mandate, and I would estimate around $80 million a year.
I just like that this is the tempered version of your opinion on this stuff.
This is as calm as I can make it.
Mine too. Oh. All right. Any other questions? Do we need to?
I'll move to approve the financial report as of 10/31/25 as second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the financial report from 10/31 as presented. Any discussion? Right? All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
Thank
Board.
you, Jordan. All right, Superintendent, our last action item, the 2025 elections for the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you can see in the packet before you, it is that time when OSBA is taking its elections from local school boards for board members to serve on their board of directors. We have quite a few positions in our region because we are quite a large region. You can see here that we have board positions ranging from the North Coast into Washington County. There are 3 board positions listed here, and then 4 positions on the Legislative Policy Committee, which is an important arm of OSBA. It's their advocacy arm. So With that, I do believe that we had email that was forwarded earlier to us today from one of the only contested race here, which is the Legislative Policy Committee, position 15, which is Melissa Potter, who is in Beaverton, and TJ Johnson, who is in Gaston. And you should have received an email because it was sent to the board. And other than that, we have a blank slate of proposals here for the board to deliberate upon.
Should we do it all in one motion?
Um,
Or should we vote on them?
I think you can do it all in one motion. I don't think we need to take 7 different motions. I think you can do one motion. Yeah.
I will move that we elect Gregory Kentz, Tristan Irwin, Nancy Thomas, Sandra Gomez, Melissa Potter, Becky Timchuk, and Crystal Weston.
I'll second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we approve. I guess I need to name them all again. Greg Kentz, Tristan Irvin, Nancy Thomas, Sandra Gomez, Melissa Potter, Becky Timchuk, and Crystal Weston. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there anybody? Oh, Dorian?
Yeah, I was curious for a little bit more discussion between the one seat that is contested. I have had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Potter, but I have not ever met Mr. TJ. And I do think that there is something to be said about ensuring representation from your rural communities. So I'm curious if there has been any discussion on performance in these positions. I just wanted to acknowledge that we had 2 candidates for that seat. So, and I'm not as in the loop as many of the other folks on this committee are in that policies or that committee's activities. Otherwise, I'm enthusiastic. I think, you know, Nancy Thomas in particular, as somebody from Hillsborough, I'm deeply excited to see her continued leadership. But I was curious for more discussion, given that we also had a candidate reach out to us today.
Mr. Johnson, I would recommend you read the candidate bios. I mean, I do support the rural, I mean, obviously I support rural voice on this, but I think Melissa Potter is an incumbent. She's excellent. And I just think she's a really strong candidate, and I would recommend, I recommend that.
That's what I needed to hear, and you're the Gaston person, so I wanted a little bit more on that to make an informed choice. So thank you for that, entertaining my request.
And I'll just say, I'm not that, but on the legislative policy side, I've watched Melissa build relationships. She attends town hall meetings with legislators. She attends all the meetings that are, and there's other ways to have a voice, and we do that when we have our January meetings and when we do. So there's other ways to get the rural voice, make sure that it's represented. But I appreciate you diving deeper and asking. So appreciate that.
That's helpful. I'll also just say on the record that in reviewing the applications that were submitted, Dr. Potter's was significantly more comprehensive in her responses that she submitted. So for other candidates who may be interested in contesting seats in the future, making sure that we're provided with enough information to make an informed decision would be my only feedback for the candidate potentially not getting voted in tonight.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the slate that was proposed and nominated signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, with that, we are done with our action items. Board members, any comments this evening? Dorian? Is that, or is your hand? No? Oh, anybody else got their? Yeah, no. I will just say, as the superintendent mentioned, today we had the opportunity to spend a good part of the day. Kelsey was with us, And superintendent and myself, when we got to tour elementary schools in Hillsborough and Forest Grove, and be with superintendents and be with a couple of legislators, and they got to hear directly from teachers. They got to hear directly from the superintendents. And I was very proud to be a part of this region because we were very well represented, and they did an excellent job of coordinating an all day. It was a lot to ask the legislators to spend the day. It was a lot for these principals and the superintendents. And I just really appreciate it. And we need to have more dialogue
Which
like that.
legislative?
The legislators were Representative Susan McLean and Senator Janine Solomon. And then the only other thing I'd like to mention is I want to thank the Northwest Regional ESD for providing me the opportunity for Chris and I and the superintendent and Secretary White to attend the Oregon School Board Conference this last week. And it is always good to see people doing this work around the state and see other ESD members. And again, hear dialogue, and we got to hear from lots of different organizations, but I appreciate having the opportunity to attend. So with that, if there's no other orders of business, we will meet again on December 10th at 6 o'clock, probably 5:30. We'll probably be having an executive session, I will guess, but and it will all be virtual. So we might not see each other for a few while. So I hope everyone has a great holiday season and gets some rest, and everybody's healthy, and we will look but we'll see you virtually on December 10th. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Feel better, Dorian.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all.